10 spine-chilling and sinister trucker horror stories. Exposed and revealed like never before, the night was thick with dread as Lisa drove her aging sedan through Brooksville. Snow began to lightly fall, transforming the dark roads into a powdery trap. A single mother, juggling work at the diner and worries for her 7-year-old son, Charlie. She felt the shadows of the towering trees close in around her. Something sinister lurked like the whispers she'd overheard at the diner about disappearances along the lonely stretches of highway. Every time the heavy rig lights flickered past, a shiver ran down her spine. How many stories had slipped through the cracks of this sleepy town? That evening, Hank, a retired trucker with a friendly smile and rugged charm, offered to drive her home. But Lisa sensed a disturbance beneath his calm exterior. Staring at the snowflakes swirling like ghosts outside, she thought of the weight in her gut. Was it safer to endure the freezing air on foot than face the unknown in Hank's truck? Yet the idea of walking alone terrified her further, and with a nervous smile, she accepted. As the engine roared to life, so did her anxiety. They set off, Hank's truck rattling like an old heart trying to keep the rhythm of forgotten songs. Lisa tried to cling to the warmth of their conversation, but each winding turn intensified the sense of impending dread. Passing the familiar landmarks of Brooksville dissolved into darkness, and the trees loomed like watchful sentinels. Suddenly, Hank veered off the main road, onto a dirt path barely visible beneath the swirling snow. Panic surged within her. "Where are we going?" Lisa's voice, too shaky to feign bravado, hung thick in the air. "Just a shortcut," Hank smiled. But the chill of that smile couldn't thaw the panic gripping her heart. Fresh tire tracks marred the otherwise pristine snow, and the deeply embedded patterns looked like remnants of the heavy freight rigs parked at the diner. Heart racing, Lisa recalled chilling tales of lost cargo, stories that weighed down the already heavy air of distrust surrounding long-haul truckers. Was Hank one of them? What would it mean to step deeper into this dark world? She stole glances at Hank's arm, inked with tattoos that twisted and turned like dark highway signs, each a warning she couldn't read. Shadows danced across his face, his demeanor shifting as if some unseen darkness had seeped into the air between them. Just as dread wrapped its cold fingers around her throat, Lisa's phone buzzed, slicing through the tension a warning text about a search party for a woman missing along these very roads. She almost dropped the device, eyes wide with fear. Every moment felt like quicksand, and she wondered if Hank was just part of the trap ready to ensnare her. "You all right, Lisa?" he asked, the question laced with something that didn't feel quite right. The truck rumbled unevenly as another in the depth of the rear view was closing in. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let us continue. His eyes locked onto hers, deep pools that betrayed nothing as the headlights of the pursuing truck flashed menacingly. Lisa's insides twisted. Was she part of a sinister game she never signed up for? A vulnerability struck her. She was just a mother trying to protect her son, but here she was, ensnared in the web of the unknown. Adrenaline surged through her, and in that moment of despair, the question loomed like an uninvited ghost. Who truly held the wheel of her fate? As Hank's grip on the wheel tightened, she felt the shadows thrumming with malicious intent. Would she battle against the grips of terror, or surrender to the darkness closing in on her? The icy breath of that deserted road whispered answers she was terrified to confront. The truck rattled forward, Hank's attention fixed on the road, yet an uneasy silence hung in the air, thick and stifling. Lisa's heart pounded in her chest. She leaned closer to the window, pretending to admire the scenery outside, but her eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. The lights of the pursuing truck glared brighter, cutting through the falling snow like a blade. Shadows shifted within. "Is it just me, or is that truck following us?" she asked, trying to sound casual, though her voice trembled like ice. Hank reacted with a dismissive chuckle that sent heat washing over her. "You're making too much of it. Trucks are everywhere out here. but it felt wrong. The weight of his laughter seemed to dampen her senses, amplifying her fight-or-flight instinct. The road ahead was unyielding. The trees loomed like giants in the dark, bending under the weight of a gathering storm. "What's the real shortcut, Hank?" Her voice came out sharper than intended. He glanced at her, the amusement fading from his face. "It's just a back road. Keeps us out of the snow. You'll see, it's fine." The truck swayed slightly, and Lisa's grip on her phone tightened as she read the alert again. A woman had gone missing a few miles up this same road. A knot twisted in her stomach. What was she doing? What if this was a mistake, a dangerous one? Suddenly, the headlights flickered again, a flash of red, and Lisa's breath hitched in her throat. It was all too familiar, the kind of suspense that coiled in her gut like a serpent. The pursuing truck grazed their bumper with a thud, jarring her against her seat. "Stop driving like a madman," she exclaimed, instincts clashing with dread. Hank's knuckles turned white as he gripped the steering wheel. "Stay calm, Lisa. Just hold on," he said, his voice unnaturally steady as the truck downshifted with a growl. The tires kicked up snow, streaking behind them like a desperate hope, but the lights persisted, growing closer, more menacing. "Does this back road go anywhere? There's no other car lights." Her voice wavered, painted with panic. "Just trust me," he said, glancing back for a split second that felt more like an eternity. The hints of something dark posed behind his eyes, shadows that hinted at secrets she dared not uncover. The pursuing truck accelerated, and Lisa's heart raced in a way she never thought possible. It wasn't just following now, it was hunting. Then the road forked a decision point. One path led deeper into the woods, narrow and lined with trees that looked like twisted fingers clawing at the sky. The other, a familiar stretch leading to the main road. "Turn left," she shouted, a frantic instinct coming to life. "Don't you worry about that. I know this way." Hank's voice remained stone cold, almost too calm. Panic surged as the overhead lights flickered again. She fumbled for the door handle, wondering if it was better to leap from the moving truck than remain hostage in this encroaching dread. But where would she go? Into the jaws of another predator lurking in the shadows? The truck swerved violently as Hank took the left fork. Lisa was thrown against her seatbelt, twisting her body to the window, desperate to gauge their pursuer's advance. A surge of anger coursed through her as the other truck barreled closer. "What do you want?" she shouted, her voice fighting against the howling wind. Hank didn't answer. The engine roared, and Lisa struggled to make sense of the chaos enveloping her. What happened to the friendly old trucker? Where was the man she had trusted just moments ago? The shadows seemed to close in tighter as they barreled deeper into the darkness, each tree a specter watching her downfall, a captive audience to her fears. Then suddenly, their headlights illuminated something ahead, an old, rusted sign half buried in the snow. A warning? Or an invitation? "God, please," she whispered, desperate for clarity amid the storm of uncertainty. And in that terrible moment, the chasing truck slammed into them, metal crunching into metal. Lisa's world exploded into a torrent of noise and silence as the truck spun uncontrollably, sliding off into the embankment. Everything twisted into darkness, and her last thought remained spiraling in her mind. What had she just walked into? As the chilling snow fell around the wreckage, shadows slithered from the trees, creeping closer to the scene. Would anyone hear her call for help? Or was this the end? In the depths of the darkness, an echo of laughter twisted between the trees. Chilling her blood, all hope seemed lost. But what if Lisa had sparked something sinister in a game she never wanted to play? The world twisted back into focus as Lisa blinked against a piercing white. Pain ignited throughout her body, raw and consuming. She groaned, sensing movement around her. Cold air nipped at her face, the scent of burnt rubber mixing with fresh snow. "Lisa," Hank's voice. It echoed somewhere above her, choked and strained. She forced her eyes open wider, the darkness of the woods enveloping them like a blanket, only broken by the eerie glow of their wrecked truck. What happened?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Stay still. Just don't move," he yelled, panic curling each word. She struggled to push herself up, but a sharp pain flared in her leg. The dim light revealed that it was pinned beneath the crumpled dashboard, blood seeping slowly into the snow. Fear gripped her throat. She glanced around, anxiety darkening her vision. The other truck was gone, vanished into the night as if it had never existed. "Where's the other truck?" she croaked, her eyes darting into the trees, searching for shadows, searching for danger. Hank scrambled to free himself from his seatbelt, panic radiating off him like heat from a fire. "I don't know. They hit us hard. I think they just drove off. But they tried to kill us. Hank, we need to." A distant low rumble resonated through the air. Lisa's heart stuttered. It sounded like another engine. She shifted her attention to the flickering lights of the wreckage, figuring their existence alone was an invitation for trouble. "We have to get out of here. If they come back," Lisa began, her voice trembling, but Hank cut her off. "Help me with the door." His voice turned frantic as he wrestled with the handle. The metal crunched from the impact. With a twisting effort, she managed to swing her body to the side, forcing the door open. Cold air hit her like a splash of cold water, invigorating her limbs but deepening the dread gnawing at her gut. I can't leave the truck," Hank gasped. His expression was one of sheer terror as he fought against a surge of hopelessness. The sound grew louder, closer. Lisa pushed past the pain in her leg. "We need to move now." Stumbling out into the bitter cold, she felt her breath hitch. The dark woods felt alive, branches snapping under unseen weight, shadows dancing just beyond the reach of the dim light. Hank followed but fell beside her, panting, desperately grasping at his knee. "Hold on. I can't, damn." She looked back at the truck, the wreckage leaning dangerously. The familiar laugh echoed again, a twisted, mocking sound. Her heart raced. Lisa turned in the direction of the sound, terror swelling within her. "Hank," but a figure blocked the path. Tall and clad in heavy work clothes, they stood with a low, menacing posture, head tilted unnaturally, shadows swallowing their face. It was impossible to see them clearly, but their presence radiated malevolence. "Lost your way?" the figure asked, voice syrupy and slow, as if they savored each word while a horde of unseen eyes observed from the trees. Lisa's heart hammering. She grabbed Hank's arm, trying to urge him back. But he was rooted in place, eyes wide, reflecting the glint of unholy delight in the figure's smile. "Just looking for a little fun, aren't we?" they continued, stepping closer until the darkness of the woods enveloped them completely. "Run!" Lisa screamed, her voice tearing through the icy grip of fear. But the words barely escaped her lips before the figure lunged, a flash of metal glinting in the snow. In one frantic moment, the world was chaos. Hank wrenched forward, pulling Lisa with him, but the laughter echoed, swirling around them, making it impossible to tell where danger lurked. They stumbled into the woods, the darkness closing in, shadows elongated and stretching like claws desperate to drag them back. "Stay close. We have to find help," Hank shouted, hope laced with desperation. But even as they ran, fragmented whispers danced around them, sinister promises floating through the frigid air. Were they really slipping away from danger, or were they running deeper into it? And as they pushed through the underbrush, the towering trees shuddered, grotesque shapes lurking just beyond their sight. Every heartbeat thundered in her ears, each one a countdown to something unimaginable lurking just behind the veil of night. Would they escape the horror lurking at the edge of the world? Or was something waiting in the darkness for them to stumble and fall into its grasp? Branches whipped at Lisa's face as she and Hank plunged deeper into the woods, the ground slick with dead leaves that gave way beneath their feet. Each slip sent a jolt of panic through her as she felt the unseen eyes upon them, watching and waiting. "Hank, we need to go faster," she gasped, her breath coming out in frosty puffs, visibility dwindling as the shadows thickened. The laughing voice echoed once more, skittering along the edges of her mind, a reminder of the figure that loomed behind them. He was limping, trying to keep up despite the agony etched on his face. I can't." My leg, a cry escaped his lips as he stumbled again, the underbrush grasping at him like hands hungry for a meal. "Just a little further," she urged, although dread gnawed at her. The deeper they went, the more the woods transformed into a labyrinth of darkness, branches twisting like skeletal fingers overhead. Was it her imagination, or did the sound of the engine grow closer? The trees around them began to warp, their silhouettes shifting unnaturally, shadows too black against the snow. Lisa's heart raced, pounding a frantic rhythm as cold sweat dripped down her spine. She turned to Hank, fear boiling in her throat. What if they find us? Hank looked past her, eyes glimmering with a mix of fear and hopelessness. We can't let that happen, we can't let them take us. But they were lost. Every direction felt the same. The only guide was the panic-driven instinct pushing them forward, but every passing moment twisted her gut. The oppressive weight of silence settled between the crackles of branches snapping. Suddenly, a soft rustling erupted nearby. Lisa froze, listening intently, the hairs on her neck prickling. Then, as if to answer her growing dread, the laughter erupted again. It echoed with a visceral glee, off-key and haunting, ricocheting through the trees. "We have to hide," she exclaimed, pulling Hank toward a dense thicket, the underbrush suffocatingly thick. They crouched, the cold biting through their clothes, but the heat of fear ignited her senses. The last light of their truck flickered, swallowed by the woods, as the chilling laugh curled around them like smoke. "I can't take this," Hank whispered, voice shaking. "What do they want?" "I don't know. Maybe they want us to suffer." Lisa shot back, panic sharp in her tone. A sudden crash came from behind them, crashing wood, a wild thrashing, followed by that twisted voice, now closer. Come out, wherever you are." Lisa squeezed her eyes shut, wishing the ground would swallow her. And then came the thump, a heavy boot landing just inches from where they were hidden. She breathed in through gritted teeth, trembling fingers clasped around Hank's wrist. "Please, not now," Hank whimpered, but Lisa held her breath, willing herself to stay silent. "Ah, sweet children, you really shouldn't run from a good time." The figure's raspy tone grew nearer, the echo of it sending her heart into overdrive. Lisa felt it clawing at her sanity, like the freezing wind had clawed at her skin moments ago. "Hank, I don't think we can keep hiding," Lisa whispered, voice barely audible. She felt his body tense beside her, each breath shaky, weighted with fear. "We need to make a move." Panic surged within her like a tide. The laughter was omnipresent, mustering around them a taunting embrace of terror. The figure's shadow loomed closer, growing larger as it approached, its wild laughter like nails scraping against bone. "Ready or not, here I come." Before Lisa could breathe again, she jerked upward, yanking Hank with her. "Run. We have to." But the moment they bolted, a swarm of shadows surged from the thick trees, eyes glinting with malevolent curiosity. Hank shouted, but it drowned in the wild chorus of sinister laughter as they sprinted. Lisa's mind raced. Was there no end to this nightmare? Where was safety? Panic threatened to seize her thoughts again, but as they dashed ahead, she glimpsed a clearing just ahead. It was their best chance. Or was it another trap? They burst through the thicket into the pale light, gasping for breath, but the world outside seemed distorted, the air thick with a pulse of dread. "I think we," Hank began, but stopped short. Before them stood an abandoned cabin, slumped like a broken relic in the woods. Shadows danced inside its cracked windows, and inexplicable whispers floated on the wind. Maybe we can lock them out here," Hank suggested, eyes wide with a mixture of hope and despair. "Or they can be waiting right inside," Lisa said, knowing deep in her heart that the darkness behind them was still hungry. Uncertainty hung like a bitter taste in the air. They needed a decision, but the cabin held secrets that could shatter whatever shred of safety they had left. "Let us go see," Hank urged, stepping forward despite the lingering dread. With every inch they took, the woods sighed, the laughter faded into menacing whispers, and the cabin loomed larger, looming like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. As Lisa reached for the door, she felt it, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Something awaited them inside, and she had to wonder, were they trading one nightmare for another? The door creaked ominously as Lisa pushed it open, the air rushing out as if the cabin had been holding its breath. Inside, darkness wrapped around them, thick and suffocating. Hank hesitated at the threshold, but Lisa stepped inside, heart pounding against her ribs like a frantic drum. The musty scent of decay hit her, mingling with something metallic. "This place is gross," Hank muttered, stepping in behind her, his voice trembling. The dim light filtering through dirty windows cast long, eerie shadows that made the corners seem to whisper. She glanced back at him, a rare moment of resolve shining in her eyes. "That's why we'll only be here for a moment," she said. "Just long enough to hide and figure out our next move." But as she surveyed the broken furniture strewn about, an uneasy feeling settled in her stomach. The echoes of laughter drifted closer, punctuated by snickers that seemed to come from the very walls. What if this is a trap? Hank's voice quivered. Then we'll deal with it. She didn't bother to mask the urgency in her tone. They're coming. We need to find somewhere to barricade ourselves. Hank nodded but lingered by the door, eyes darting around wildly. This cabinet feels wrong. Just look, Lisa urged. She moved toward the back of the room, discovering a narrow staircase leading down into a darkened basement. The anticipation whipped up her fear. Let us check out down there more hiding places. Hank watched her, the uncertainty etched on his features. The shadows trembled, flickering, as if alive. You really want to go down there? He asked, swallowing hard. What choice do we have? She pressed, feeling a wave of desperation wash over her. The laughter grew, a cacophony of sinister joy just outside an uninvited party they weren't sure they could escape from. She clutched Hank's elbow, guiding him down the creaking steps. The descent felt endless, the air growing colder, a chill crawling beneath their skin. At the bottom, she found a small, cluttered room. Old boxes lay stacked high, covered in dust and cobwebs, but among them, she saw rusted tools and a hunk of a shattered mirror leaning against the wall. I don't like this, Hank whispered again, stepping further into the room as Lisa made her way toward the stacks. The laughter echoed above them, swirling through the floorboards, as if the figures were probing their escape. Nothing else down here looks like it can help, Lisa whispered back, rummaging through the junk. Something metallic caught her hand, a rusted garden spade, heavy and sharp at one end. Maybe we can use this if they break in, she mumbled. Just as she stood, balancing it awkwardly, a piercing scream rang out from somewhere deep within the woods, stealing her breath. Hank, did you hear that? She shouted, adrenaline surging. Yeah, what was that? His eyes were wide, reflecting terror as the scream transformed into the howling laughter once more, building in intensity. The walls felt alive, breathing with unholy anticipation, and the laughter was no longer distant. It was inside the cabin now, echoing through the dim corridors, mingling with whispers that slithered into their ears, soft and sweet, promising freedom or worse. Lisa spun, fingers tightening around the spade. They've found us. We have to hide. But before they could move, the floorboards above buckled, followed by the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps padding across them. She felt the heat of breath on her neck, something dark brushing against her skin, a whisper that sent shocks of paralyzing fear through her veins. Lisa, Hank gasped, frozen in place. Under here, she cried, dragging him down behind the boxes just as the door slammed open overhead. Light poured through, casting monstrous shadows everywhere. The laughter sharpened, echoing as if they were already being hunted, and desperately, she clutched her weapon, heart racing in sync with the footsteps. The panic. What now? Hank breathed, the pressure mounting around them. What if they know we're here? This is insanity, he whispered. We can't stay here. And just then, they heard a voice that chilled her to the bone, smooth like silk but dripping with malice. Where are you hiding, my beautiful shadows? Lisa's throat tightened. She stole a glance at Hank, his gaze wide with terror. They were trapped, and this nightmare was far from over. The voice drifted closer, like a predator stalking its prey. She had never felt so exposed. Outside, the shadows began to shift, revealing hideous shapes that danced in the fading light. Would they find them beneath the old boxes? Or had they stumbled upon the doorway to an even darker fate? Do you think they can hear us? Hank whispered, and Lisa's mind screamed back, did it matter? Behind them, something shifted in the darkness, an ominous shift of weight. A faint whisper echoed in the silence, possessing a promise they couldn't afford to ignore. We'll have you soon. And as they waited, dread filled the space like 1,000 whispers, breathing life into the shadows, as reality bent, twisting to reveal secrets they were never meant to find. What horrors had they awakened? Silence enveloped the small room, a suffocating blanket that seemed to choke their breaths. Each creak above echoed in their ears, a relentless reminder of their vulnerability. Lisa's heart pounded wildly. She felt every pulse, every thrum of adrenaline coursing through her veins, as if her body was preparing for a fight or flight. Hank's eyes darted around frantically, wide with terror, searching for an escape route that didn't exist. The laughter, the insidious laughter, continued swirling, penetrating the walls and curling into their ears like smoke, taunting them. It was a game to the unseen entity, and they were the pawns on a cracked chessboard. "Do you see anything?" Hank whispered, his voice barely above a breath, trembling. "No," she hissed back, clutching the spade tighter. Its edges dug painfully into her palms. The whispers started to swirl again, wrapping around them like cold tendrils, coaxing and beckoning, promising something sinister yet alluring. "Come play with us, little shadows," the voice cooed, slithering through the darkness. Lisa shivered, the words curling around her spine like a serpent, injecting dread into her core. The shadows far above danced and flickered, the figures barely visible, at times morphing into grotesque shapes that defied reason. What kind of twisted game were they part of? Then, the unmistakable sound of a door creaking again filled the air. It was a heavy sound, echoing into the basement like an ominous drumbeat. Panic pressed down around them. "Stay quiet," Lisa mouthed, her eyes locked on Hank S., desperation mirrored in his gaze. The laughter intensified, crescendoing as if they reveled in the moment, thriving on the fear that seeped through the cracks. Suddenly, the footsteps above paused. The silence that followed was razor-thin, ready to snap at any moment. Lisa's breath caught in her throat, and for a brief second, hope flickered a wild, reckless thought that maybe they'd move on until she heard it. "Look, children, look how they hide," the voice rang out, smooth and haunting, coaxing the shadows to coalesce into something more corporeal. An icy chill slithered through the closed space, as if the darkness itself had come alive. The floorboards creaked again, a heavy footfall now seeming to linger right above them. Lisa barely dared to breathe. "Where did you go?" The voice sang like a twisted lullaby, wrapping around her sharply. "You promised to play." Hank shifted slightly, and a box tipped over, crashing to the floor with a loud thud that shattered the fragile silence like glass. Lisa's heart dropped, and she felt a panic rising inside her like a pressurized balloon ready to burst. "They're coming," she hissed urgently, urgency flavoring her words with a bitter edge. With a brutal force, she shoved Hank further back into the shadows, desperate to stay undetected. The soft whispers escalated, their laughter morphing into something much darker as the presence above seemed to gather momentum. "Don't fear the dark, beautiful shadows," the voice cooed once more, incredibly close now, nearly dripping with hunger. "The night belongs to us, and so shall you." Hank was shaking, a tremble that mirrored the flickering light from above. He stared at Lisa, mouth opening slightly, as if to speak, but no sound came. She shook her head. Words were dangerous now. The chorus of whispers turned into frantic murmurs, mingling with the laughter disrupted by splintering, creaking wood. The atmosphere grew heavy, the intrusive shadows reaching down as if searching for them. Suddenly, Lisa spotted a glint in the far corner of their cramped hiding place, a faint shimmer from the broken mirror. Something about it pulled her in, a whisper that scraped against the edges of her consciousness. "Hank, we might have a way out," she began, only to be shoved back by the overwhelming sense of dread that electrified the air. "Find them," the voice commanded suddenly. "I want my playthings now." The weight of impending doom crashed down upon them, suffocating and absolute. Before she could utter another word, the door above slammed open with an ear-piercing bang, questions of their continued existence spiraling into chaotic uncertainty. "What if they look down here?" Hank gasped, his voice edged with panic as they both sat frozen, horror painted across their faces. "Then we fight," Lisa whispered fiercely, the spade gripped tight. But deep down, uncertainty gnawed at her resolve. Would this be their last stand? Or had they already crossed a point of no return? Darkness gathered itself tighter, as that haunting voice echoed through the threshold, searching and hungry. The sensation of the night pressing in around them became palpable, and dread filled the room with a suffocating finality. "Where are you hiding?" Fear exploded within Lisa, thrumming like a mad drumbeat in her chest. They were so close now, so dangerously close to whatever lurked above. And just as the first figure peeked through the doorway, a terrifying thought crossed her mind. What if the game had only just begun? The figure hovered at the threshold, a grotesque silhouette dripping with shadow. It looked almost human, almost Lisa's breath hitched, the familiar chill creeping back into her bones. She held the spade like a lifeline, even as it trembled in her grip. The laughter faded momentarily, replaced by an eerie silence that felt like an abyss. Time stretched, each second dragging with the weight of 1,000 fears. Hank barely dared to breathe, his eyes wide, reflecting the dim light of the corridor above. Soon, the shrouded figure stepped into the light. Its features were unnaturally elongated, skin pale, glistening like wax. Hollowed eyes scanned the darkness, searching. "Come out, shadows," it hissed, a voice like broken whispers weaving through the blackness. Lisa's heartbeat echoed in her ears, drowning out all rational thought. Panic twisted her insides, but there was no retreat now. To move was to draw attention. "Hank," she murmured, her voice a desperate plea. He turned to her, his eyes wide. She could feel the fear radiating from him. "Keep quiet," he mouthed back, but the tremor in his lips betrayed his own terror. "Please, children, don't be shy," the figure cooed, crawling deeper into the basement. "I just want to play." Gretchen, what they were calling it in their heads now, moved like smoke. It floated, gliding as it reached the broken mirror. The glint caught its attention. The entity leaned closer, inspecting its own reflection. Lisa could feel the weight of dread in the atmosphere shift, the darkness around them thickening with every passing moment. "Did you think you could escape?" it whispered to the mirror, its voice barely above a murmur. "Not when you're playing my game. You're not the first, and you certainly won't be the last." "What does it mean?" Hank's question slipped past her lips, an outburst of confusion, but she shot him a look that could shatter glass. "A game of hide and seek," the figure said. "That us all." Lisa clenched the spade tighter, jaw set in determination. A game. The thought reverberated in her mind, cruel and mocking. It was taunting them, tempting them to make a move. Hank's eyes darted back to the doorway, gauging the distance before whispering, "We need to get out, Lisa. We're running out of time." "But how?" Just then, Lisa noticed something strange over Hank's shoulder, a flicker of movement. A shadow seemed to elongate beyond its bounds, creeping along the walls. It pulsated. "Turn around," she gasped, panic flooding her voice. Hank moved, instinctively, but it was too late. The shadow rose, a dark surge reaching toward him like an eager, grasping hand. "Down!" Lisa screamed, throwing herself toward him, knocking them both to the floor just as the shadow exploded with ferocity. The basement erupted with chaos. It roared, a sound that felt like the very marrow of their bones vibrating. Lisa could feel the cool rush of air as the shadow swirled above, dark and tempestuous, searching for its prey. "This way," Hank shouted, pulling her toward the far corner where the mirror gleamed. "Are you crazy?" She shook her head, heart pounding. "That's not it's our only chance," he hissed, desperation cutting through the din of the chaos. Individual wisps lunged at them, brushing against her skin like the sting of ice. They had to move. She pushed doubts aside and followed Hank, urgency fueling their every step. Their feet pounded against the floor, and as Hank reached the mirror, he glared at it wide-eyed. "Here. It has to be something," a low voice echoed again. "Why run? Just play it, be more fun." "Shut up," Lisa yelled, swinging the spade at the whispering shadows. The mirror's surface rippled, reflecting not their own image but the dark abyss they had been hiding from the fanged grin, the hollow eyes. With a last desperate effort, they each reached for the mirror, the cold glass a barrier against the onslaught of terror. "Together!" Hank shouted, shattering the silence. They reached the mirror, time suspended like a heartbeat. The shadows loomed closer, and just as their fingertips grazed the surface, a swift gust of wind billowed through the room, uprooting the shadows, sending them into a frenzy. Lisa felt life and darkness intertwine, the lines blurring as they plunged into the unknown. The very world around them cracked. "The game has just begun," the voice echoed around them. And then nothing. An ominous darkness enveloped them completely, tightening like a noose, leaving the question suspended in the air. What lay on the other side of that horrifying mirror? The darkness didn't just envelop them. It suffocated them. Lisa's heart raced, pounding against her ribs like a caged bird desperate to escape. Slowly, her senses began to adjust, like the dimming of lights in a theater. She could catch the faintest shimmer of silver on the edges of something. Was it the mirror? Hank, she whispered, testing the weight of the silence that surrounded them. It swallowed her voice, the echo stretching into an abyss. I'm here, his voice came, shaky and uncertain. But there was something else lurking beneath his words, fear, yes, but also something darker. Where are we? Lisa could hardly breathe, the air turning heavy and stale. Don't know, just hold on. They stumbled forward, hands reaching out, trying to grip something tangible in this shrouded void. Panic fluttered in her chest. The thoughts raced, colliding like freight trains. Had they stepped into a parallel dimension? Or were they trapped inside a nightmare, forever to play a twisted game of hide and seek with a shadowy entity that craved their despair? A game, Hank said suddenly, voice slicing through the darkness. It mentioned a game. We have to find the rules. Rules? Lisa's voice was rising now. How are we supposed to do that? We're lost. She could feel the building dread coiling around her, squeezing tightly. But a change in the air caught her attention, a stirring that felt almost alive. Focusing, she caught something moving in the corner of her vision. Shapes, vague and shadow-like, floated just beyond her reach. Over there, Hank pointed. The shapes morphed into indistinct figures, their features distorted like ripples across water. Were they faces watching them? Stay close, Lisa urged, her voice trembling as they sidestepped the pulsing silhouettes. She felt strange, almost in a trance, as if pulled by an unseen force. The shadows danced, weaving in and out, taunting them, but they pressed on. Do you hear that? Hank's voice dropped to a whisper, a hint of terror lacing his words. A low hum resonated in the eerie stillness, rhythmic and synchronized, as if the very essence of the place was alive and with a heartbeat. Abruptly, the smell of decay hit her like a slap. She gagged, the foulness curling in her throat. What is that? She managed to stammer. Hank recoiled, his face twisting in disgust. I don't know, but we must keep moving as they weave through the writhing shadows. A glimmer caught Lisa's eye. Something shiny lay on the ground, half hidden. She knelt, hesitant. What is it? Hank asked, his tone tinged with urgency. She reached for it, her fingers brushing against a blade, sharp and gleaming, inscribed with strange, sunken markings. It pulsed subtly in her hand. A knife? Whatever it is, it might help, he said, though his eyes were wide with fear. Let us just get out of here. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, surrounding them like a swarm of angry bees. You can't escape, dear children. Ready or not, here I come. Somewhere in the darkness, the figure surfaced, a tall, lurking presence with hollow eyes. A twisted grin split its face, wider than humanly possible. Did you think you could hide forever? Lisa felt heat rise in her chest, her instinct kicking in. We're not playing anymore. With a surge of defiance, she lunged forward, brandishing the knife like a shield. But before she could take action, shadows coiled around her like living tendrils, hurling her back. Panic gripped her stomach, squeezing tightly. Lisa, Hank shouted, but the dark tendrils coiled around his feet, rooting him to the ground. The entity's laughter echoed, insidious and triumphant. Breathe in the fear, children. Your game is only just beginning. The shadows closed in tighter, pulsing like a trapped heartbeat, pressing against them from all sides. In that harrowing moment, Lisa's breath escaped her. She felt the gravity drop, as if being swallowed whole. Then, darkness burst like a dam, dragging them deeper into an abyss of unholy laughter. What new horrors awaited them in this nightmarish plane? The echo of their cries faded as the shadows snickered. Did any escape ever really await them? The world shifted again, and Lisa felt herself being pulled apart from reality, the shadows swallowing her whole. In a dizzying spiral, the darkness morphed into a new dimension, a place where the air was thick and cold, carrying whispers that nipped at her skin. Get away from her. Hank's voice cut through the haze, a desperate plea twisted with rising bravery. The shadows hesitated, as if confused by the intrusion of his command. Foolish boy, the figure in the darkness taunted, its voice slick and oily, slithering through the air. You cannot resist the game. What game? Hank shouted, fear coursing through him. What do you want from us? With a wave of the shadow's hand, the oppressive darkness receded slightly, revealing ominous shapes. A flickering light illuminated a tableau of horror. A half a dozen mirrors stood at the edges of the room, their glass warped and distorted like funhouse reflections. Each mirrored surface held glimpses of twisted versions of Lisa and Hank, their own faces haunted and grotesque, laughter lingering in the air like a taunt. Lisa's grip tightened on the knife. "Hank, we have to find the rules." It said something about a game, as if summoned by her thoughts. The shadows formed letters, glowing faintly across the nearest mirror. The words morphed and twisted, but one chilling phrase stood out. "Face your fears to survive." What does that mean? Hank's voice trembled, his eyes darting from mirror to mirror. Are they us? The figure leaned closer, its eye sockets dark hollows filled with malice. "They are what you wish to hide, sweet children. Embrace your truth, or you shall be trapped forever." With every word, Lisa felt her pulse quicken. What deeper fears lurked within her? What secrets did Hank hide? "Hank," she cried, desperately trying to resonate some clarity amidst the haze. "If we don't confront it, they'll take us." Without waiting for a reply, she stepped closer to the nearest mirror. A rush of dread flooded her mind as she gazed into its depths. The reflection rippled, and suddenly, the image morphed into a visceral memory, a fragment of her past that she had fought to forget. Standing alone as a child, fear gripping her as shadows crept under her bed, whispering accusations of weakness. "No," she recoiled, breathless as that moment consumed her. "I want tea." But the shadowy tendrils slithered around her, drawing her back, sinking into the truth she had buried. "Why hide, Lisa? You cry in the dark, but I see you." Hank's face twisted in anguish as he clutched the mirror's edge. "Don't listen to it. We can find another way." Yet the sinister fog wrapped around them tighter, pulsing with an insatiable hunger. Lisa felt her heart race. She wanted to deny it all, wanted to flee and escape, but the reflection was clawing its way into her reality. "Face what you are." The presence taunted, a grotesque grin splitting its shadowy face. "Or lose one another forever." Then, like a jolt of electricity, the weight of hopelessness crashed over her. Each shadow erupted in a cacophony of laughter, drowning out her thoughts, filling her with a deep sense of despair. With her determination wavering, Hank dashed forward, breaking free from the tendrils that gripped him. "Lisa, we can do this together. I won't leave you behind." As his voice echoed, the shadows recoiled slightly, flickering like candle flames. It was a chance, a portal of hope emerging from despair. "Face your worst fears," Hank insisted, "and I'll stand with you." Summoning the last reserves of her strength, Lisa stepped closer to the dark mirror. The chaos of her memories slammed against her, and anger ignited a flame within. "Let us end this," she roared, brandishing the knife high, determined to confront whatever horror lay within. Suddenly, the shadows twisted violently, a storm of darkness swirling around them. They could feel the mirror's wickedness trying to sap their energy, but the bond between them pulsed stronger. With every ounce of courage, they lunged toward their reflections, eager to unearth the roots of their fears, to wield control over the darkness. They could either succumb to the nightmare or uncover their truth. But an eerie laugh bubbled from the depths as the mirrors echoed their resolve, whispers swirling to leave a haunting question lingering in the air: were they strong enough to break the curse? And as dark tendrils unfurled around them, the shadows loomed heavier, waiting to see if they would truly face their inner demons or be eternally consumed. The swirling shadows surged around them, pressing in like a tide threatening to swallow them whole. Lisa felt her heart pound harder, every thrum a reminder of her mortality. The whispering voices became a haunting chorus, their mocking laughter colliding with the frantic beat of her heart. "Face your worst fears," Hank repeated, his voice carving out a path through the chaos. "We can do this together." She turned to him, desperation pooling in her chest, but mingling with tenacity. "Together," she echoed, feeling newfound strength course through her. Setting her jaw, Lisa stepped forward, the knife gripped tightly in her palm. Whatever dark force this was, they had to confront it. To falter meant surrender. To surrender meant eternal darkness. She glanced at Hank, whose expression matched the determination sparking within her. He could see her, fully, and she could see him, two souls entwined against shadows that wished to divide them, steeled by their bond. Lisa pressed herself against the closest mirror, its surface quivering as if trembling at her resolve. The reflection shimmered, and the darkest corners of her past were laid bare. A young girl, terror-stricken, curls disheveled as she hid beneath the covers from imagined monsters, feeling weak and powerless. But she wouldn't be that girl anymore. Leave her alone, Hank shouted, stepping closer as if sheer intensity could drive the demons away. His voice filled the void, a resurrection of courage. We're not afraid of you. The figure in the shadows recoiled slightly, momentarily staggered by their resolve. You dare challenge the game? It hissed, the once smooth voice grating like gravel. Yes, Lisa bellowed, channeling every ounce of fear into determination. Show us the way out. Without warning, the mirror acted like a gateway ripped open, revealing swirling smoke and glints of light. Shadows lunged forward, choking the air with despair, but with Hank beside her, tearing through the chaos felt possible. I can't do this alone, she cried, eyes locked with his. Hank lunged into the mirror's depths, joining her. You won. I'm right here. As both souls melded into the vision, they encountered distorted flashes facing haunting figures that mirrored their insecurities, taunting them, pulling them back into the dark. But they pressed forward. Here in this nightmarish realm, shadowy images morphed into prolonged strides as Lisa faced her younger self directly. You are strong. You survived. That night didn't destroy you. It shaped you, she called out, the emotion igniting new resolve. And then the laughter faded, replaced by something soft, a melody of understanding woven through the layers of darkness. She could see the girl nod, strength blooming within her like a wildflower breaking through concrete. A sense of light burst forth, illuminating Hank's face as he faced the specters of his own buried fears. His shadows loomed large, but Lisa could see him gather the strength of all he fought against. The memories brought tears to his eyes, but he let out a resounding shout. I won. Let you control me. I choose freedom. In an instant, the shadows conformed, twisting tighter, flailing and thrashing in an agonizing grasp. You cannot escape. The figure screamed as the light grew brighter, penetrating their dark prison, but they only felt warmer. Hank grasped Lisa's hand tighter. Together, they surged forth, propelled by their bond with unyielding force. The mirror rippled in acknowledgement, revealing echoes of their lives splintering and merging, the true strength within them combined. The shadows shrieked, recoiling against the light. You will pay for this. As if, Lisa declared, a fierce laugh escaping her lips. This ends now. With a final push, they dove deeper into the light, willing it to shatter their chains. The darkness screamed, twisting in a frenzied panic as the bond between Lisa and Hank resonated like sunlight igniting a new dawn. The world around them shattered as the light enveloped their beings, breaking through like waves crashing against a relentless shore. They emerged, breathless and gasping, pulled back to the familiar terrain of the forest where they had started. Snowflakes fell gently, blanketing the ground like fresh hope. The cabin stood behind them, dark and silent, devoid of its previous malevolence. But now they understood they had faced the darkness, and it had no power over them. Lisa breathed, tears streaming as she caught her breath. We did it. We're free. He nodded, a slow smile spreading across his face. Together, joy bubbled up uncontrollably between them, each heartbeat a reminder of their victory. They had emerged into the light, leaving behind the burdens of their pasts. As they made their way out of the woods, Lisa clutched his hand tightly. Let us go home, she whispered, embracing the warmth radiating from the bond they preserved. With every step they took, they left the memories of the game behind, bound only by their connection and a newfound strength. The darkness faded, not forgotten but transformed, woven into the tapestry of their resilience. They would never carry fear again, and if you're feeling the urgency of this conclusion, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second. Click that bell to get all notifications about our next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now and feed the algorithm so we can keep bringing you spine-chilling tales. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. A true fan knows how important your voice is. Lastly, instantly share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the word. and keep the thrill alive together.